Hi, and welcome to Artcasters 86. I'm Joshua Kemble, and you should probably know that because you're on my channel. And I'm here with, all the way from Arizona, Scott Serkland.
How's it going?
And all the way up in San Jose, I'm here with Gazbot.
That's me. Hi, thanks for having me again, fellows.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think you were the last guest, and you're the guest tonight. So
look at that. I make things happen.
So today we were thinking, Scott just got back from big convention, so and I'm sure there's a lot of news. Green Ranger news
that Josh was somehow unaware of. That I think everyone else in the world has maybe heard about it, but
yeah. So now I have a million questions because I just literally have a very brief rundown.
I kind of wish we had that moment on air because Scott was literally like, "Well, you guys know about Pheonix Comic-con and all that stuff," and I'm like, "Yeah," and Josh is like, "What now?" And I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah, so so a lot of very green subjects to talk about. So so we thought we'd make that kind of our topic because we felt like after last week there's so much about conventioning that I want to know about and I want to talk about. So I thought you guys would want to hear more too. So
yeah, and we may talk about this next week too. So
it's a never-ending wellspring.
Yeah.
So Scott, so what? Run us down first the drama, and then we'll get into tech stuff.
Okay, so Pheonix Comic-con, it's a pretty big Comic-Con. I don't know exactly how many people they have. I thought I heard that they were expecting 110,000 people. I don't know if that many people actually showed up, but it's a pretty big comic convention, and it's like a 4-day con. So Thursday pretty much started out like any other con, not any other con, but a typical, Pheonix Comic-Con. Actually, I did pretty well for a Thursday because that's like a preview night. It starts later and it goes fairly late, but it's just like a preview night. But Friday was quite eventful because if anyone isn't aware, some crazy guy decided that he was going to sneak into the Comic-Con armed with a shotgun, 2 or 3 handguns, pepper spray, body armor, tactical knives, and Chinese throwing stars. Yes. So I'm laughing, but I mean it could have been a really serious thing because he made it past security and everything, but he was alerted. So he was blabbing about it either on Facebook or texting or something. I don't know if it was a friend. Yeah, Facebook, and so somebody had alerted the authorities, and I guess they found him. But he was going. His intention was to what he said. And I obviously, like I said, this guy is mentally disturbed because he claimed that he had 10 or 15 years ago. I'm asking Gaz because he knows.
His claim was that 15 years ago, there was some sort of altercation with Jason David Frank, the actor who portrayed the original Green Power Ranger. And in that altercation, he stabbed him, and that this is his time to come back and finish the job, in his words.
Right.
Wait a second. This is so weird because there was an incident in the AV at the city I live in now where one of the Power Rangers did stab somebody in their apartment.
That's different. That was a totally different guy.
Okay.
Yeah, he and that was at first they said it was self-defense, and then later it was unclear. But that was an altercation between 2 men in a private house that a sword got involved in. It wasn't a good situation, but it was more of a quote unquote normal situation,
Yeah. So okay, so that's not the same Power Ranger.
No, it has nothing to do with it. Yeah, and that guy, he was the Red Wild Force Ranger, and then later played a villain on Power Rangers Samurai.
Oh man!
And he is currently in jail, from what I understand.
Yeah. Huh. So, so he wanted to kill the Green Power Ranger, who was later the White Power Ranger, I guess. But
that is correct. And then Zeo and Turbo and came back for. Okay, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Is just so you guys, and the reason why, if you didn't see Gaz before he started sharing his screen, he's got a bunch of Power Ranger toys behind him. He's a pretty big fan. So.
It's true. And
you probably met. I assume you've met him before too, right?
Yeah, I have. I I met him and as like a fan, and then later I had a bunch of prints of the Green Ranger and the Dragon Zord that I did, and I had given him one, and later he contacted me, and we worked out a deal where he signed a bunch of them. I gave him a bunch for free to give out to his fans, and then he signed a bunch and sent them to me to sell as signed copies. So it was like a little minor business transaction after having met him as a fan, which was pretty cool. Yeah,
everything I heard about the guy says that he was a pretty cool guy, or he still is. Like I said, he lived.
Yes. I don't know him personally, but I met him as a fan, and I met him twice as a fan, and both times he was very accommodating, very, very generous with his time, gave out free autographs and pictures sometimes. And then professionally, like I said, it was sort of a trade, his signatures for my prints, and it worked out for both of us. So
that's cool. That's really cool. So yeah, I mean, and this guy, like I said, they did apprehend him and everything, but he also said that he pretty much was going to obviously also kill anyone else who stood in his way, especially the cops. He was ready to take down cops too as well. So luckily all that crisis was averted and everything.
Yes.
But it did have an effect on the convention, as you can probably guess, and will probably have an effect on most other conventions everywhere, I would assume.
So your experience though, so when this is all happening, do you know what's happening at the time?
I got a text from my girlfriend asking if I was all right, and I'm like, what? What do you mean? And then she sent me a news article.
That was probably the best answer you could have given her, though, because that immediately let her know that everything was fine if you didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah. And and was my daughter there that day? No, I don't think she was there that day. Yeah. So, but yeah. So, it was a little freaky, but by the time I knew about it, the situation was contained and under control. So, but like I said, it did affect the con. So that happened on Friday, and then Saturday they were kind of. And I've got a video that I'm posting tomorrow where I'll talk some more about this. So I might retread some of the stuff I'm going to talk about tomorrow. But so anyway, what they did, because apparently there wasn't. It didn't sound like there was any kind of contingency plan for something like this happening. And usually, I mean, Pheonix Comic-con, and they've always kind of had issues, and they're really good at this is my opinion, of course. A lot of people would disagree with me, but in the past, they've been pretty good about correcting things like this, kind of on the spot and everything. There was I don't know if it's last year or the year before, somebody had pulled a fire alarm, so the whole floor had to evacuate. Yeah. So, obviously because of that, people were losing money, so they stayed open later. And they did that again this time because with the heightened security and everything, it took forever for people to get in. But what they ended up doing was they just put a ban on all prop weapons. And because of that, you can imagine a lot of the cosplayers were pretty upset. But and I would imagine that moving forward, that probably isn't going to be the case. They'll probably have some sort of rules in place where you can bring in weapons, but they'll be, looked over more cautiously or something like that.
Well, the problem with this is such a tricky issue because obviously safety first, and the police and everybody have to do what they have to do to keep everybody safe. But and this is my understanding of it, and I wasn't even there, but I've just read a lot about it after it happened. That there are cosplay weapon checks at most major conventions, including I believe Pheonix, where you have a lightsaber, you have a fake gun, whatever. You get it checked, you get a zip tie, you get a tag of some sort. And so, but this person just didn't go to those and just didn't go into a normal entrance, and so skipped that completely. So, well, obviously, it's a good idea to have those weapons checks. If you don't have a cosplay prop, you could just skip them, or at least up until now you could, it seems.
Right.
So I don't know what increased inspection of fake weapons is going to do. I'm not saying don't try anything, but it seems like they already did that, and he got through anyway. You know what I mean?
Well, I guess I'm thinking more. So the guy was going there. He was saying he was the Punisher, and I don't think his cosplay was really like the Punisher. But
I don't think he was even dressed up like an outfit for.
But for instance, if you did want to go as the Punisher, there may be because the thing is, like, if you're going there with some crazy laser gun or something that could not possibly be a real gun,
right?
That's one thing. If you're somebody who does carry actual guns, like Deadpool or somebody like that, that's a little different story. But I think based on, you know, everything happening so fast, they just had a no, you know,
right.
Because where do you draw that line, you know?
Right. Well, and in this instance, I mean, people were calling it knee-jerk, reactionary, whatever. I think it's fine. They had to act fast. Might not have been perfect, but I think it totally makes sense. They just said nothing, keep it out, forget it. But going forward, that's might be an unsustainable policy. Yeah,
no, I agree. I think they've got to figure out some other way. And obviously they'll have to have heightened security so somebody can't just go around that. You know, that weapons check or whatever. Because so there has been in the past times where I've walked right in and didn't have to show any credentials at all.
Right.
So
and that's.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it is tough too because, I mean, yeah, theoretically he was going after Jason David Frank and he had this mission, but clearly, you know, he had issues. And he thought he was the Punisher and whatever. And I'm one of those people that's of the opinion that, like, this wasn't about Comic-Con. This wasn't about cosplay. This is somebody that had, you know, severe mental problems, that had access to lethal weapons, and decided he was going after Jason David Frank, who, by the way, just to be clear, was never stabbed. They never had an altercation 15 years ago. That was all in his head. Yeah. So I feel like this individual could have just as easily, like, walked into a McDonald's and been like, I gotta kill Ronald McDonald, you know, like, I think so, you know, it's like when there was the Batman shooting a while ago in the movie theater of Batman, and, like, I don't think that had anything to do with a movie theater or Batman. That just happened to be where it took place. And we didn't suddenly get metal detectors at movie theaters and stuff. You know what I mean? People could still walk into movie theaters with guns if they wanted to, you know what I mean? And again, I'm not proposing the answer. I'm just saying it's one of those things where it seems like the gut reaction, mine included, as someone who goes to all these cons, is like, we got to make the cons safer. And sure, we do. But I don't see that the cons have suddenly become less safe than they used to be. I think it's the same risk of any, you know, public gathering of people. Just it happened to happen at this comic convention instead of a concert or something else this time. Yeah, yeah. It's definitely a mental health and a mental not a patient, but somebody who has issues like that, being able to obtain firearms. So, but yeah, so anyway, and then there was some, you know, based on all this, there was also, so of course you've got vendors and everything there that are selling prop weapons. So, you know, what do? So they had to institute a policy where they had to, like, wrap all the weapons. And this I'm sort of unclear on, but the Ultra Sabers, the big lightsaber company, they were actually kicked out of the con because the convention center said that they weren't complying with the new regulations. They say they were, so I don't know exactly what happened there, but I mean, they were gone, and they had, like, a pretty big booth. And so I was walking the floor, and I didn't realize this at the time that they were kicked out. And, like, there's, like, this big gap. I'm like, what is this, like a dance floor in the middle of Pheonix Comic-Con? Because usually there's no open spaces anywhere. You know, I love that was where your mind went. What is this, a dance floor?
Well, because it was actually kind of cool, because if you've ever exhibited like a big con like this, people are always stopping in the middle of your booth to, like, take pictures or just stand there and loiter and stuff. It's like, come on, move along. So actually this was kind of neat because it provided a place where people could stop and do all that stuff. So, you know, of course that's valuable real estate as well. So, but so yeah, they kicked them out. So I don't know what that means going forward.
I heard that they got a refund though.
No, they did. They definitely did get a refund. I know that, but whether they'll be able to come back, whether they want to come back, yeah.
Well, and that's a tough one too, because I'm on the side of both parties in that case, because, you know, do I think it was stupid to say, hey, you're selling lightsabers, after you sell them you have to put them in a garbage bag? Yes, because what is that doing? Nothing. It's completely meaningless, and you're still allowed to sell them. So it's one of those arbitrary made up rules that solves nothing. But at the same time, Ultra Sabres was exhibiting at the con, and they did agree to follow the rules, and they knew so yeah, I think it's dumb that they said put them in garbage bags, but Ultra Sabres should have just followed the rules until the end of the show and then revisited next time they were coming. So I understand their frustration, but I think they probably handled it badly in non-complying, especially immediately after a near tragedy.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that was probably the case. I don't know, but because a lot of people, I mean, I had constantly people were upset, other vendors, also other, also is attendees the right word for people just going to a con and not exhibiting? That's the right. Yeah.
Yes.
So attendees were also upset. They weren't happy that they had to wait in longer lines and things like that. But I mean,
you were there, so maybe you know if this is true, but basically what I heard was that Saturday, and I see actually they're talking about this in chat a little bit, and Holly Brown was saying something like, limiting entrances and putting metal detectors on it might not be the worst idea. And maybe it wouldn't if they were set up for that. But what I heard is that Saturday, in an effort to, keep things safer, they banned almost all prop weapons of any kind, shields, sonic screwdrivers, everything.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they limited it to like 3 entrances, and everybody coming in, whether you had a badge or not, whether you're cosplaying or not, everybody went through a security screening, is what I heard. And then because of that, I saw a lot of people complaining, oh, I already have my badge, but now I have to stand online 2 to 3 hours in the hot sun outside. This is a terrible system. And a lot of people were going home because of it. Is that correct?
Yeah. So a lot of people did ask. Yeah, a lot of people did ask for refund. And if you guys have never been to Pheonix in late May, it's pretty damn hot. Right? It's probably not as hot as normal as it usually is, but it's hot. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I understand that. But I don't know. I mean, what do you do in a situation like that?
So okay. So you're boothing. You get this text. And then you're like, so like, how did that affect your week? Because I'm just imagining like that would be.
Yeah, it did.
Not to be crass or anything, but I'm just like, how did that affect your sales? Like, I would want to know, like, because that's a huge thing. I mean, like that's right. It's not your normal convention experience,
Yeah, so I will let you guys know it wasn't great.
Right.
So yeah, Thursday, like I said, Thursday started off really good for a Thursday. Friday when this happened, it was horrible. Sales were horrible. I hardly sold anything. Or wait, hold on. Yeah, Friday. So.
Well, I imagine a lot of people went home once they found out what had happened too, right?
Yeah, and it was so bad, and I was like, at that point, I was like, because I got 2 tables, and at that point, I was like, you know what? I don't even know if I'm going to be able to cover 1 table. It was that bad, and luckily, Saturday was better, and and after Saturday, I was like, if I can do what I did, if I can do half of what I did on Saturday, then at least I can sort of break even, and I'll just chalk it up to just a bet. I mean, who would have expected? Yeah, who would have expected this guy would try to come in and murder people? Yeah, and it's just one of those things. But Sunday I did just as good or better than Saturday, so a little bit of a profit, but I was hoping for more because I was saving money from moving back from a booth to the 2-table system.
Right.
So I thought, oh, this is, I was expecting better.
Big show for you for the year too, I imagine, right?
Yeah. So, but again, it's kind of one of those things. So I'm kind of happy that I thought when it was Friday, I thought I was going to lose my shirt big time. So,
right.
But go ahead.
Oh no, I was my cat. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So, but one of the kind of cool things, my daughter, she made a bunch of slime and she wanted to sell it there. And I told her, I said, I'm not going to sell it for you. If you want to come and you want to sell it, that's fine. I'll let you, you can do that. So she brought her slime. We made a little display, and I made some packaging for her and everything. And that was Friday, and and she sold out of that stuff. Of course, she was selling it for like $3 and 2 for $5. So it's a cheap item, and she had the little slime sitting out so people came by and touched it, and she sold out of all the stuff she had. And there wasn't a single person that just wanted to buy the 1 for $3. Everyone wanted the 2 for $5. So, and so that was cool watching her. I don't know that, I think maybe that may have taken away from some of that sales from me, just because if people come to your table and if they can just buy one thing, then they kind of feel like they've bought something.
But then they might not have bought anything, but they thought she was cute.
True,
so they bought
true.
Her.
True. So, I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe this is because I do have like a slime that I sell. It's like a glow in the dark kind.
Did you brand her slime as like a Circworks product?
I didn't put Circworks on it, but I made it. It was sort of similar. Like all my little lab experiments are black and white type and everything, and so I put toxic sludge on it, and then she had like 6 different varieties. Like she had like Monster Muck and like what was it, like dark matter. She had one that was just total like pitch black and called dark matter, or all this different stuff. So it looked similar, like it looked like it belonged, but it didn't say Circworks on it. But I think I think in the future I might just pay her to make some slime for me, and then give her money, and then sell it myself, and kind of repackage it. And I'm kind of rethinking just how well it's sold. And I might, because the problem is the way I'm selling my little lab experiments, they come with a print, and they come in a little gift box, and there's, cool packaging and everything, but it sells for $15, and, people just want the slime. They could care less about the print. So I think moving forward, I'm going to try to do more of that type of thing, like different little lab products that I can sell for like $8 each, or 2 for $12 or something like that, because it seems like it sells. So
I like how you're like, I want you to come and learn a lesson about selling, and you're like, hey, I can make money off of you.
Well, there's sort of a caveat, because I think she would have probably sold out anyway, but I'm trying to get her to become a salesperson, and my daughter's pretty shy, so she, if somebody asks her a question, it's very like me, not. People could hardly hear her, and I had to kind of do the pitch for her. I said, "Oh yeah, my daughter made," and as soon as they say my daughter made it, they look and they see my daughter. She's 12 years old and cute and everything, and so then it's instant thing. Oh, that's cool, and so yeah. So I kind of had to do the pitch for her. I wish you would have, and hopefully maybe she'll get better at that. But
or maybe you do that with prints too. Yeah, my daughter made this.
She made all this. She's a genius.
Comics too.
Yeah. So based on that, I'm starting to rethink some stuff. But but that was sort of my highlighted Friday, just because it was. Other than that, it was such a crappy day. But it was kind of cool to see her sell out of that stuff. I bet and then she went off and bought all kinds of crap, and she was having a good old time. So, but she didn't have anything for Saturday. So, but that was good, probably good for me, because Saturday was, I think, my best day. So, but yeah, that was kind of cool. So
real quick, do you want to kind of explain, like, for anybody who's watching who hasn't convention before, how that works? Because like generally, like, like your Friday, like how that's kind of slow, and then the closing day usually is pretty good. Like, I kind of explain that, because I remember my first time conventioning, that threw me off. I was expecting the first day to just make all these sales, and and then some people walked me through it. But I was just thinking people might find that valuable.
Yeah, well, I might turn that over to Gaz, because he's done a lot more shows than me. But just before I do, my experience isn't always the same at every show. And really the thing is, it also goes for the items I sell. Like, usually bow ties sell pretty well for me. I didn't sell a single one. The last time the large prints, the 20 by 30 large prints sold pretty well. Didn't sell a single one. So I can't figure out. I think if you're selling fan art, you have a better understanding of what's going to sell. When you're doing sort of your original stuff, it's hard to really gauge that, because no one's ever seen this stuff, and it's just basically what strikes somebody at the moment, because this is all new stuff to them. So I can't predict what's going to sell, from convention to convention. There's no way for me to do that, because it's always different. But and the days are different too. Like, usually a Thursday preview night doesn't really, I don't do that well. This time I did pretty good for a Thursday. Yeah, it was good. Usually Fridays are pretty good. Usually Saturdays are the best, and that was the case here. Sundays, sometimes Sundays are better. And the weird thing is, like, Sundays, what I found is people really, a lot of times people say, oh, I'll be back. And you think, oh, yeah, sure. But a lot of times they do come back, at least in my experience. Yeah. Sundays is a lot of people, like, and they're the big, like, I've got some people that come by and they drop 100, 150 on the table, you know, at my table. And those are like repeat people. And one guy came at like 30 minutes before it was going to sell up, before it was going to close. And he's like, oh, I'm glad I found you. I was looking for you. And, you know, he bought like, I don't know, he bought like $80 worth of stuff, I think. And, you know, so, you know, stuff like that. I've got certain people that come back, and there's a certain type of crowd that dig my stuff. And unfortunately it's so niche that a lot of those people aren't at these conventions. Yeah. So that's why I keep saying I got to find where that crowd is, because most people, you know, aren't into the kind of work that I do at a typical comic convention. But I'll turn it over to Gaz and let him talk about as far as different days and what sells for him and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, I'm certainly no expert. I do a lot of shows, and I've been doing a lot of shows for a few years, but most of them are in the Bay Area of California. I've you know, ventured out to Chicago and Boston and down to LA area a few times, but generally I'm in this area. So keep that in mind. And I agree with Scott that different shows, and even the same show in different years, it'll change. But as a general rule, yeah, Friday or Thursday, whatever the first days, are not going to be as busy as usually Saturday. Saturday's usually the busiest. And then I find that Sunday is usually kind of busy, and then right towards the end gets a frenzy when everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's over, I got to buy something, do something, blah, and they start running around like idiots looking for deals and or last minute buys or things. But I also agree that people do sometimes come back more often than you'd think. So like the worst thing you could do is have that attitude of, oh yeah, you'll be back, sure, whatever, you know. A, it's unprofessional, and why say that? But B, they do come back sometimes. And like Scott, I do fan art. I mean, I have my own book, The Horror and everything, but I do fan art of kaiju and Power Rangers and stuff like that. So I'm a little bit more niche than the average fan art person. And you know, most people, if they're not into what I do, just walk on by. But then the ones who like what I do, and I think I said this last time, like I have a minor reputation in my local area as the Godzilla guy, as the kaiju guy, so that I do sometimes have people come back, hey, what do you got this time? You got Shin Godzilla? Oh, I do. Yeah, what else you got? Oh, I got a new Destroyer print. And they're looking, you know, unfortunately, they're not like clamoring for the next issue of The Horror, but I mean, that happens occasionally. But more often than not, they're looking for the new stuff I have in the vein of things they've seen me do before. Yeah. But that's, you know, I don't want to overstate it and make it seem like, oh, there's lines out the door. But those people that do come, similar to what Scott said, I might not sell anything for an hour, and then one person shows up and is like, oh, I saw you last year. Here's $50, you know, for all these new prints that you have, you know. That falls into the trap of the print trap a little bit too, though, where I am trying to make money for my table, and I am trying to make money, and it's not my day job. It's not where I'm trying to make my living, but I'm not where Josh is at, where I'm like, I just want to sell my comic and I don't care. I'm sort of like in the middle somewhere. So I find myself struggling every time I'm doing a show. I'm like, I need to have a new print. I need to do something. And that's time it takes me because I'm slow. You know, if I'm doing 11x17 color print, that's a couple days work all day, where I could be doing client work. I could be working on my comic. But if I don't, then when I get there and somebody asks, I'm like, oh, that's $20 I could have made right there. You know, like, so I think I've put myself in a weird spot where I'm kind of halfway between what you two do in terms of my goals.
Yeah, like, because my experience, like, as I've explained before, it's been a while since I've done conventions, and I'll be hitting them again when this monster's done. But like, my experience was like every convention I went to, and this actually was for like every single one, most of my sales would be on the last day. And a lot of people I'd meet, like other cartoonists and stuff, talked about book sales being really high on the last day, particularly because like people, especially who are like looking to read your book, like they're gonna pick it up, they're gonna kind of look at it, they're gonna think, well, is this something I want to read? And then they go and spend the rest of the convention checking out what everybody else has to offer. And so, but at the end, like those customers, a lot of the ones that are like, oh, I'll swing by later, and when you're kind of green to it, you're just like, sure you will, you know, because a lot of people do say that and don't. So I mean that's true as well. But yeah, like
you don't want to punish everyone else for those people.
Yeah, and a lot of those people come by, and the best time is when those people are librarians, because they'll buy like, I'll take 20 books, and you're like, okay. Like, I mean, and
I think that helps more though when you have a finished book, a trade, or a graphic novel. When you've got floppies like me and Scott. I mean, I'm speaking for you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't get somebody coming up and going, "Give me 10 copies." It's they want one to read themselves or none at all usually.
Yeah, I mean, like with my experience, it was a floppy.
Really?
But and librarians, I'm just telling you, like, look for librarians at conventions. They're like your best friend. Like,
I don't know how you look for them, but
well, if they come by your booth and they say they're a librarian, just be prepped, because like a lot of the time they'll have like a little list. Like most of the time they have a little list, and they have to like it because they have to report their expenses. So they're like writing down, and they'll usually write the number before they purchase it from you. And it's like, I've literally had them be like, I'll buy 20 books. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. But all of that usually happens on the very last day. So like for me, my experience has been like the last day is really effective for like, and it's funny because the last days, you guys know, because it's like you get through that long of a convention, the last day is kind of, you're on your last legs too.
Oh yeah.
So it's like super important to like make sure you like stay at your booth, like work it, because like you were mentioning, Gaz, like there's that crazy rush at the end, and like you might have gone an entire convention without making table and just make table plus like right.
Oh yeah. I've had that literally happen. That exact thing you just described.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I remember having what I thought was going to be one of my worst shows, like, and like that happened at the end, and I like was like, sweet, I doubled my table, and it was like, in like 2 hours, it's crazy.
One thing I'll throw out there though, that the last day, if you do commissions at shows, which I do, and I don't typically get a lot, but it's rare I don't get at least 1 or 2. I don't like taking them on Sunday if I could help it. If it's the beginning of the day, fine. But I'm kind of slow, and I'm also manning the booth. And I've had, a pencil head sketch, and it takes me 4 hours to get it done. Not literally 4 hours, but because I keep getting distracted and sidetracked, and so I've had it Sunday where like I've had just one sketch on my list, and at 12 o'clock, like a second person, and I'm like, can I do it? And I take it, because I want the money. But like I try to tell people if they come earlier, if they're like interested in a sketch, like maybe I'll come back. I'll say to them, look, I'm not trying to give you a hard sell. I'm not going to sell out of my prints. I'm not going to sell out of my books. But if you want a sketch, get it sooner, because I might not have time Sunday. And the more time I have, the better the sketch you're going to get. You give it to me on a Friday, I might take it home and do it while I watch TV, and you're going to get a better product than the one I kind of try to do in between selling at the show. And I'll literally say that to people, and it'll often result in them then buying it right there and then, which, it's not a sales pitch. It's true. They're going to get a better product.
Yeah, and I think honestly that ties into a totally different topic, but I tend to think when I was younger as an artist, like I used to hear like stuff about like sales pitches and stuff like that, and get kind of like weirded out and think it was like selling out or something, And the best sales tactic that you can use is like honesty. It's just honesty with like that kind of thing is actually the best way you can sell it, because you're going to be sincere when you're saying that. People read sincerity. So it's a lot easier to sell if you really like, first off, like have a really good product that you actually believe in. Like,
that helps. Yeah.
But it's also easier to sell when you're talking about realities, like, like when you need to get orders in and like, that kind of thing. So I don't like, to me that is a sales pitch, but that's what you should be doing. Like, dishonest salespeople are what make people at conventions leery about spending money, And like, to me, it's like, I don't know, just another thing. If you're somebody who's watching, who's like, I was in that sense, and you hear like sales pitch and you're like, like, it's just like,
well, I guess there's a difference. Like, I was quick to say it's not a sales pitch, which I guess you're right. It is a form of sales pitch, because I'm like, I want to sell to you, and I'm pitching you an idea or a concept, but I'm not desperately trying to get them to buy my commission. They expressed interest. and I'm advising them, look, do it sooner rather than later. And that's kind of the beginning and end of it. And I'm not lying. And you're right. I'm being sincere. And it's the same as like, I'll do, if you buy 3 prints, I'll give you 1 for half price, like that's my kind of standard deal. And when I say that to people, I'm, and I say, like, if you don't see 2 or 3 you like, then you could feel free to ignore this. But, just so you know, if you see 2, you might as well get 3 because it's half price. And I also say then, like, you and your buddy could split them. It doesn't have to be you. You could go find a friend, come back, and, like, which, again, I guess can sound like a sales pitch, and it is in a way. But I literally am just trying to educate my potential buyers so that they get the best possible deal. And not out of greed. I mean, yes, we all want to make money, but I'm not looking for short-term profits. I want people, like I said, to see me again 6 months, a year from now, and remember me fondly and go, oh yeah, I liked the interaction I had with you. And we talked about Godzilla and you told me about that deal. And like, I don't want to make a few bucks and then never see him again. I would rather them have a good experience. And the next time we see each other, they're happy to see me and, have a relationship that way.
But see, I think that goes to something that is kind of clear, like tying into where I was getting, which is that like the reason you want to be kind of honest with your sales, like for instance, you're doing a sales pitch, yes, but it's not dishonest,
Right.
The reason you want to kind of educate clients and, treat them like treat everybody like a customer, like they have value and stuff like that is because like anyone and their mom could go to a comic convention and if they put enough hustle into it, could sell like, a piece of paper with like a dot on it. If you really really worked it and really hustled it, you might be able to get away with that at one convention and make a decent profit. But like
at one convention, yeah.
But that's the thing is like if you're interested in sustaining business or building a brand, it's like you want to you basically want to keep that kind of positive like actual honest sales because of the fact that that'll lead to more return customers and you're building that trust between like yourself and the customer or a reader, I don't know. It's just
I agree. And there's the loftier goals of, again, building the relationship with an audience as an artist, blah, blah, blah. But I as we're talking about this, I mean, I try to be a pretty honest person in my life in general, but I realize where I may have gotten this from originally is I used to go to a lot of flea markets when I was a kid. My family, I come from like upper lower class, lower middle class, whatever you call it. Kind of, we weren't hungry, but we could always use a few extra bucks. And so I'd often go to the flea market with my dad or my aunt or whoever. And I definitely remember my dad saying stuff like, I got this clock radio. Here it is. As far as I know, it works. If it doesn't, I'll be here next week. Come back, show it to me, And he would always try to be honest about the flaws of the crap he was selling because he knew he'd be there next week. And he'd tell them, I'll be here next week. If you find out I'm wrong, come tell me. I'll make it right. And if it happened, he would. And again, it's not the same thing, but it is because he was going to be there next week, and he wanted people to come back to him and buy other good junk from him next week.
Yeah,
that's where you're making a living. Like a one-time thing is where you're making a profit briefly, but like relationships are what build businesses. So like that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
My daughter had at the con, she bought like this light up fidget spinner thing, and one of the lights was out on it. I told her, I said, go take it back, and she was nervous. She didn't want to take it back. She was afraid they wouldn't exchange it for her. And I told her, I said, if I sold somebody something and it didn't work, I would take it back.
Yeah.
And I think after I said that, then she finally did it, and of course they gave her another one. So
I've had people. I've never had anybody ask for a refund. Because the type of stuff I sell, it's like it's not like it's not going to work. But I have had some of those repeat customer type people come back and remark to themselves or to me, not looking for something free, but like, oh yeah, I got this Godzilla pin last year, or I got this whatever pin, but it fell off my backpack or whatever. Now, they probably had it on their backpack for 6 months and it fell off, and that's not a defective product. That's $1 they paid 6 months ago. But if I ever hear that, I go, oh, we'll take another one free. Yeah. And they're like, what? No, it fell off. No, it's fine. It fell off. Here you go. Because I want them to have the thing they paid for, and maybe it was bad luck, maybe it was their fault, maybe the hinge came undone, whatever. But it's $1, and really for me, it's 25 cents. And it thrills them, and it's good customer service, and everybody's happy. And worst case scenario, I'm out 25 cents. But it's just good business.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that if you ever like explode or get really well known, that's the kind of stuff people will remember and be like, that guy's a good guy. He did this at this convention, you know. Because how many times have we all met like somebody who's well known, and maybe they're just having like 5 minutes of their life where they don't feel good, and they're just like, oh, or they say something with like an attitude, and you know, for the rest of like the time that you don't know this person, you're like, yeah, I know that guy's a dick.
Right, because the only thing you know about them is they were a jerk to you once.
Exactly. So like those little interactions are like so important to like.
People in the chat looks like are generally agreeing that Sunday could be a good day. Ox is saying he made a bunch of money on Sunday, and Holly is saying that a booth is basically a store, so you need to treat it like one. It's that simple, and then people are making fun of Abe. So.
Yeah, I got to see Abe at the convention. He stopped by. That was cool.
Oh yeah.
So he designed that 100 shirt. So hopefully he'll have that for sale for all the 100s.
No, was Abe tabling, or is he just there as a guest?
No, he was just there to kind of check everything out.
That's fun. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Tying in cosplay and customer service. I am not a cosplayer, but I guess I'm about to be because I just dropped some money on a cosplay outfit for the first time. And it was an expensive outfit I bought, and I got it like from Indonesia and blah, 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 blah. And I had to send all my measurements and all this crap, and I have these shin guards, and they will not fit. Like, there's a zipper on the back, and my foot busted through it, and I'm like, well, maybe I could fix the zipper, but then there's a ring on top. I can't fit my calf through it, and I'm like, this just doesn't work at all. And so I contacted them, and I've heard horror stories about other like people buying from these Indonesian people or wherever, where a lot of it's a Power Ranger suit, where a lot of the best Power Ranger stuff gets built. And including, you know, it's the person who's making my helmet that's been a year and blah, blah. Anyway, horror stories, bad. And once it's all said and done, I'm probably going to make a video talking about this other person and how terrible they are. But the person who made my suit got it to me quicker, had better communication, blah, 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 blah. And I contacted them about it, and they're like, oh, sorry to hear that, and like give us the measurements. And then they checked it against my measurements, and they're like, oh, well, what do you want us to do? We could give you a tutorial to fix it yourself. I'm like, I don't really know how to do that. I don't have the tools. And they're like, well, do you want to order something else? We'll send you a free pair, you know, of shin guards with the new order, you know, or if you just want to pay shipping, we'll send you a new pair of shin guards. And I was like, I was going to go for it, but I'm like, it's not really my fault. I double checked this thing and it was their fault. And so I kind of, as politely as I could, I said, well, listen, I don't really want to buy anything else. I don't really know how to build this stuff. I said, you know, if I have to pay shipping, so be it. But I double checked the measurement, and I gave you the right measurement, but it was the wrong size. I really was hoping you guys would take care of it for free. And they got back to me like, you know what? You're right. We'll send you out a new one for free as soon as we can. And I was like, that's awesome customer service. And when I get it, I'm going to make a video about how great they are. And it cost them some money, but there are two different people I've worked with. And one, I will actively tell people, do not buy from this person. And the other, I will point and say, yeah, they did a good job and they had good customer service.
So the way that ties in is don't be that company that everybody is like, I can't wait to give a negative Yelp review of this restaurant. You know,
exactly.
Like, you don't want to be that guy. Like,
no.
And you know, like you're a human being, so like the more involved you get with people, you'll probably have one person you rub the wrong way. You know.
Sure.
I was so bummed out. I was so bummed out when I got a 4 out of 5 star review on Etsy. And it wasn't anything real bad. They complimented me, but they weren't happy with the fact that my prints weren't on cardstock.
Oh.
You know, I still kind of argue that I think that the quality of the paper that they're on is probably better than cardstock. But anyway, but people like different things. So, but yeah, so I mean but I always try to, you know, I always try to go the extra mile when people are ordering from me or buying from me or whatever. So, and if I have to refund, it's better to refund. I guess depending if it's a huge item, it might be different, but it's usually better to, you know, refund or exchange or something than get that negative review.
Absolutely. And even in that case, like, and I've never had anything really negative, but a couple mildly, like what you're saying, like, but that's one smaller instance. And if I had a chance to work with them again or do something else, I'd try to correct it. And the bad seller that I'm not ready to name yet, but it's not like they did one thing wrong. They've done several things wrong. I'm pretty sure they just outright lied to me multiple times, and I've given them multiple chances to make it right in some way, shape, or form, and they've failed at it. So it's not even, oh, they had a bad day, which you're right, any of us could have. It's like a pattern of bad behavior, for lack of a better term. I had a thing on my Etsy store similar to what you're saying, Scott, where somebody bought a print. I have headshots of some monsters, and somebody bought one of my headshots, and I have pictures of exactly what you get on the site, and they liked it, and they said thank you, and it's great. They had a little comment, and they didn't mean anything by it, I'm sure, but it was like, oh, this is great, and I'm happy. I just wish it wasn't cut off at the top, because the monster had like a horn protrusion, and the way I cropped it, you know, the top was cut off on purpose. And that's how it was pictured. But yet still, they somehow either thought it wouldn't be cropped that way, even though I showed it was, or just felt like telling me after the fact how they would have done it. And it was just one of those things like, why?
That is a baffling thing to me. Like, I've actually had that happen before with, like, I'll post, like, and this doesn't happen frequently. I think I can count on 3 fingers how many times that's happened. But I remember posting like a drawing that I had done on like Instagram or something, and somebody gave me this like long-winded critique on it,
unsolicited.
And I was like, I wasn't asking for feedback, dude. Like, I mean, not in like, even if it were mild or like it were something glaring, like I have had like on my webcomic, I've made like 2 bad typos, and people let me know, and I was like, thank you, and fixed it instantly, you know.
Right, and that's fixable too.
Like, the approach you're taking on your entire book could use this blah blah blah, and work on this. And I'm like, thank you. I didn't go to art school or anything. Like, you're the first person I've ever heard critique my work, and you know, I didn't realize I was in a crit room, but okay.
I hate that. But it's like you said, it's even worse. If somebody gives you advice that you can act on to fix something like a typo, okay, even if you didn't ask for it, it might be helpful. But if it's like, oh, you know those 50 pages of finished art you have done? Here's my advice. It's like, even if they're right, it's done. There's no, you know, like.
Well, and once again, I always look at the messenger. And like in that case, you know, and maybe this is a bad thing, but I always look at the messenger. And in that case, I went to look at their feed, and I was like, "Oh man, you suck! They were terrible."
Yeah, but that made you feel good.
Okay, so I'm gonna listen to the critique of somebody who's unseasoned, just like unsolicited, giving unsolicited critiques.
But that's gotta feel great, because if you went to their page and they were amazing, you'd be like, "Oh crap, maybe they know something." But if they're terrible, you're like, "Ah."
Well, I have had that too, like where people I really admire say something, and it's funny because like as an artist, we're supposed to get better at handling criticism or constructive criticism, but I still have like that moment of having to fight. Like usually, like my wife, for instance, she's an illustrator, and she's way better at drawing than I am. So she'll notice like a really bad anatomical error like way before I will, and she'll bring it up, and it usually takes me about 5 minutes of just like, no, that's not a thing. And then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, I gotta erase that arm, you know. But I still have that like 5 minutes of needing to be like, okay, like processing. Which is totally weird. Anyhow.
That's just the ego. That's the ego, but it's also the artist ego, where there's the normal ego of I don't like to be wrong because I'm a human. But then there's the artist ego of like, I don't want to change for an editor. My art is my soul, and I know better than any, you know. And then you have to go, oh, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I was just reading a comment from Holly. She says she's literally had people complain about how well packaged her stuff was because it took them too long to open it. Yeah, there's just some people you can't please.
You can't win for losing.
But you gotta try at least, you know.
Yeah.
Well, another thing to keep in mind, like as you start doing stuff online too, is just like it's so easy to leave. Like when something aggravates you or annoys you, it's so, like, for instance, I'm currently trolling my local representative because he's like one of the few people I totally disagree with politically in California, and I'm trolling his Facebook page. That's terrible, you know, but I'm really pissed at him, but it's so much easier to do that than to like say find a representative in California that I'm happy with and be like, hey, great job, you know.
Right.
It's just like the human, I think as a human being, it's just like way easier to tear stuff down than to build it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I get where people are coming from when they do that, but it is funny. It is weird when it's uninvited. It's not even asked for or whatever. I don't know, but
I suspect
too, that happens all the time.
Yeah, that's even worse. I suspect sometimes it comes from a lack of self-awareness, and maybe there's other issues, you know, in their personality or their psyche at play. But I think, assuming that they're otherwise, you know, for lack of a better term, psychologically healthy, I think there might be a certain level of like a jealousy, and not even if they are an artist necessarily, but just sort of like, who are you to be putting you're not that good, and they like bringing you down. Yeah, it makes them feel better, you know, whether they realize it or not. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he's not that good. What's, you know, just because if you're not that good and you're making a fool of yourself, then they don't have to feel bad about not putting themselves out there.
Yeah, and that's. But I mean, like, that's funny because it's like I think conventions are good for that too, like building a thick skin. Because like I remember at my first convention, actually the worst convention I ever did was in Los Angeles. It was called Wizard World, and for what I do, that is like the last convention on earth you want to go to if you make auto bio stuff. So I remember sitting through the entire convention, and these like guys in like cosplay would like come up to my booth and they'd pick up my comic and kind of look at it and go, "No capes and tights?" Like they'd literally ask that. Like,
wait, really? They literally say that?
Yeah.
That sounds like a skit.
It does, and I was kind of shocked by that, like even saying that, but they'd just be like, "Yeah, I only read capes and tights books," and I was like,
"That's crazy. That's weird." You know, here's the craziest thing about it is that it's like bizarrely self-aware. Because usually that's what you would say about somebody that is like closed-minded, not what they say about themselves. You know what I mean? That's like saying, "Oh, what? You don't got all just white people here? Because I'm only a racist." You know, like it's just like, who says that? It's so weird.
I don't know. Maybe it was. I have no idea, but it was weird because it's like I had like 4 copies that were like dog-eared from just guys picking it up and being like, "Yeah, no superheroes. Sorry, no," and just like. For like the entire convention, that was my worst convention experience. From there, I realized like at least I don't know if things have changed because I think people are a little more aware of like alternative comics because this was like 15 years ago or something. So I think people are a lot more aware of like alternative comics. So I don't know if I get that reaction at say like Wizard World now, but at the time it was just like, you know, when it's your first book and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna get it out there. That was pretty crushing, but it's still valuable because it's like at conventions after that, if anybody said anything, I'd be like, well, at least it's not Wizard World.
That kind of stuff drives me nuts, though. Like, because it's all you could hate half the stuff at the con, you could hate most of the stuff at the con, but like everybody's there to have a good time. You're gonna find somebody likes the thing you don't like. You know, like hate it all you want, but why do you feel the need to go up to the creator and be like, "This is poopy you've made"? Like that's your problem at that point. Like I don't understand. I'll tell you, I did something I'm not proud of in my younger days. It's not even that bad. It sounds like I killed a man, but I was at Mocha.
Like I went to this convention looking for the Green Ranger.
It was 15 years ago. I had a knife. No, I was at Mocha selling whatever crappy fanzine, you know, Kinko's photocopy thing I was selling at the time. And I want to say I was in my early to mid 20s. And I had gone through this prism of like being enamored with like the minor celebrities in those circles and then come through the other side of like being too cool for school about it, you know, and there's Evan Dorkin and Sarah, is it Dwyer or I always mispronounce her name, but anyway, they were sort of like the celebrity couple in the 90s that did a bunch of like underground comics and everybody loved them and stuff. And I was a fan, but then I went through this weird thing where suddenly I wasn't a fan because I was too cool to be a fan anymore. And I didn't do anything horrible, but I cringe now when I think of it because basically I know that they had written on Space Ghost Coast to Coast and a couple early Cartoon Network shows, and that they were currently, or Evan Dorkin at least, was currently working on Elkingtonville Heroes or something of his own that I wasn't particularly interested in. Yeah. And rather than talk to him about what I liked that he had done in the past, or ignoring him completely, or just saying, "Hey, how's the show going for you?" or whatever, I went up to his table and knowing he wasn't working on Space Ghost and hadn't in a long time, I was like, "Hey, what's going on? You still working on Space Ghost?" And he's like, "No, I haven't worked on it in a while." I'm like, "Oh, why not?" He's like, "Well, I'm working on this other thing." I'm like, "You should go back to work on Space Ghost." And it was crappy. It was terrible. And I feel really bad about it. Like I said, it's not the worst thing anyone's ever done, but the intention, like the whole intention, like here's the thing. What I probably did, I hope I didn't make him feel bad. And I hope he just was like, that guy was a dick. But I might have made him feel bad. You know, I don't know. But even then, my intention wasn't to make him feel bad. It was to prove how cool I was. That I didn't care about him and his thing. And blah, I'm over you.
I've seen him do several interviews, and he always mentions that. So.
Oh no!
I'm just kidding.
but honestly, it was a thing. It's not like a thing I did for very long. Like I did that, and I think like the next day I'm like, why did I do that? And then like the next week I'm like, oh, why did I do that? And like I never did anything like that again. And I immediately realized I was not too cool for school, and you know that phase I was in for a minute was totally stupid. But I think some people live in that phase the rest of their life, you know.
Yeah, and that's something that's good to remember as well, because like I've said stupid stuff to creators I really dig too, and it's just like, you know, like that's something to keep in mind too. When like somebody's commenting with a bunch of hate, they might be your biggest fan. Like maybe that's why we're critical, because they're like, hey, wait a minute, this thing you did in 1992 or whatever, you know.
Right,
I don't know. Like they're probably like, so. I don't know. I guess I'd rather get a negative reaction than a non-reaction.
I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that.
This guy that showed up with the guns, I mean, he may have been, what's his name? David Frank?
David Frank,
David Frank's biggest fan.
Yeah.
Some of these people are just so, you know, I mean, so.
Well, I still say stupid stuff to creators from time to time, but now it's unintentionally stupid and not with malice, so.
What's the worst thing that's been said to you, Gaz, at a convention? Like,
nothing that horrible, to be honest. I mean, I've had nothing that really badly hurt my feelings. I'm trying to think. Usually, it's a lot of suggestions about what people think I should draw, which is a little irritating. But it indicates usually they at least like my art enough that they'd want to see me do my version of whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
I think the closest. And maybe I've blocked something out from earlier in my adventures, but I think the thing I would get most common now, which is not very common, is like, oh, you did a comic of your own? Cool. Could I see it? And then they kind of look at it and put it down like half a second after picking it up. And I'm like, oh.
Can I see?
Yeah. or a variation of like, oh, who's it for? I'm like, oh, it's self-published. And they're like, nah, who cares? You know, like, but that's like, okay, I'm used to that. It's not a real personal attack. It's just their perception of the way the world works. And I can't think of anything super hurtful someone said in a long time. However, I expect hurtful things to come my way more once I finish my story, and then you know, people who maybe just like aren't, because now the only people who buy are people who follow me online, who meet me at a convention, who like monsters. Like it's a self-selecting group, so that even the worst I've gotten is people have said nothing. You know what I mean? And everyone else has said they liked it or whatever. And I think once it becomes a trade and is out there in the world, and I'm going to try to get it, you know, in bigger distribution, where someone might feel the need to review it that I don't know, that doesn't like me, that doesn't like Godzilla, and then I could see them being like, this guy can't write worth a damn, you know, and also he's garbage at drawing people, or you know. And I'm sure I won't appreciate that, but I'm kind of ready for it, you know.
Yeah. I the worst review I got was like, I did this book called Barbarians, a handbook for aspiring savages. Like I illustrated it, and there was an entire forum of people who were like hardcore, like Conan the Barbarian fans. Oh. That were really pissed off at the book because it took a couple jabs at like Republicans. It took jabs at everybody, but and I guess they were Republicans and really hated it and thought it was just like, anyhow, it's funny because a couple of them, if you go on Amazon, you can see like a couple of the same people that like were on this forum and this message board, and one of them's a reviewer, like left that as like an official review for like a comic book site, and then went and kind of was so furious about the book that he left it on the Amazon page as well. It was the weirdest thing. It was really weird. But it's like, it kind of made me happy because it was like, well, I guess we made some good jokes, like, you know. But like, what about you, Scott? Like, what's the worst you ever had, like, at a convention? Worst customer.
I'm sure I've had, you know, bad customers, and I don't really stick out. I mean, the thing that people say, and they're not intending to, insult me or hurt my feelings, but when I'm selling my lab products that come with the print, and then they say, well, can I get it without the print? I'm like,
that sucks.
You're like, it's free. No, I really.
Yeah. So, and it's just like, yeah. So that, I mean, because the rest of it, the lab products are usually things that I get, just novelty things that I repackage to make them look cool, but they're like chintzy, cheap things. But what I try to do is get something cheap from like Oriental Trading Company and then repackage it so it looks cool. And then kind of, and charge a little more and then add extra value by adding that print. But when they say, yeah, I don't want the print, or can I get it without the print? Then it's like, I don't think they know that, hey, this is really what this guy does. It's not buying things.
I agree.
Reselling them.
I think they just think you're just working a booth. They don't know that you're the artist.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you've said that before, and I think that has to do with your setup because, I've gotten it a few times where people don't realize it's my stuff at first, but if it's just me sitting in front of a bunch of art prints, it's usually easier to figure out that I'm the artist than, you have such a polished look to your place. It's easy to believe that maybe you're running a store for someone else, like I can see how that, I mean, it still doesn't excuse the rudeness, but.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I'm sure there's more, people have insulted me more than that, but I don't usually, at least for me, I don't think it's been intentional.
Well, yeah, I never think it's intentional, and like, reviewers will be a little more mean than like somebody at a convention,
right?
I know those people who were like even in that Wizard World. I know a lot of them were probably just walked by and just thought they'd express their love of superheroes,
right?
In that way, not quite sure why, but
yeah.
But like. Anyhow, I don't know. I feel like we're going really negative.
I also get
the highlights of your convention.
The highlights of my I think the thing with my daughter was pretty cool, seeing her sell that stuff, the slime and everything. That was cool. As far as highlights, what would be my highlight? It was cool. I got to exhibit next to a friend of mine, which was cool. And we'll have him, Jeremy Burley. We'll have him on hopefully soon, maybe next week. We're going to see if we can arrange that. But I kind of learned a lot from him, and I don't want to get too much into it because I want to actually have him on, but he was really good at selling his wares, and just a different approach than what I had been doing. And he's selling, original stuff, original comics and everything. So that was cool, kind of watching him work. There weren't a whole lot of huge highlights. It was more just like crazy stuff. And whether that's considered a highlight or just an experience, it was like, if I had to say my most, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but memorable, it would probably be this show, just because it was crazy. But there wasn't, I don't think there was a whole lot of like, things that were just like, oh man, this is awesome type of thing, So, but yeah, it was just kind of, and there's still a lot of stuff, and I'm a little worried that Pheonix Comic-con might be kind of losing their sort of what made them great, at least to me. But it's hard to tell because there was so much other stuff that went on at the show that could have factored into the reason why certain things, like for instance, like there have always been volunteers coming by offering you water, offering to watch your booth while you use the restroom, things like that. And
that's amazing. I've never had that happen at any show.
I know that's not typical, but it's always been the case at Pheonix Comic-con. And now earlier in the year, there was another sort of controversy with the Pheonix Comic-con where, I don't know if you guys remember this, but they were going to charge, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, but go ahead. Not everyone knows.
Where they were going to charge volunteers to work there.
What?
That's ridiculous.
To volunteer. Yeah, and it is ridiculous. The reason why is because there was a problem, and I understand that this is a problem, but people would go and volunteer just so they can get in for free, and they wouldn't do anything to volunteer. They would just go like they were at the show. But they're having to to do that than to try to make them pay. And eventually they went back and they decided they weren't going to do that. But you know, there was that and just some other things.
That's another one of those weird wrong-headed like fixes of like people aren't doing their jobs, so let's make them pay money. Like what?
Right.
Like if anything, I would have went the other way and said, okay, we're going to pay a nominal small fee, and then it'll become more competitive because people will want that fee, and that, you know, like.
Yeah.
So weird.
Seriously, from going to that, like I was saying, and again, I understand that that's not normal for a comic convention, but Pheonix Comic-con has always been, they've just done some extra stuff and some things for the people exhibiting, and it's just been really cool. But I didn't see a single, not a single volunteer that whole weekend I was there. And usually I see several. Now, this could be because they had to pull all those people to help handle other things with everything else that was going on. That does make sense. So that could be the case. But yeah, I don't know. And then there was, you know, and I'll talk about this a little more on my video that I'll upload tomorrow. But you know, there was a table about probably 3 or 4 tables down from me that were selling like fidget spinners in the Artist Alley. And Artist Alley is supposed to, and I assume most of the shows you go to is the same thing, Gaz, but Artist Alley is supposed to only be for people selling their own artwork or things that they created.
Yes, agreed. They should not be allowed to sell things that other people produce.
Yeah, and not only that, but they were carrying signs on sticks and walking around. You know,
that's also not
$5.
okay.
Yeah, and that's against the rules. They're blaring loud music, which I think you're allowed to play music at a decent volume. Most of the weekend they had it it wasn't bad for me because I was far enough away, but I would hate to be the people next
I've been
to
to 2 shows that had the same vendor where they had music, and I wanted to kill him, and half the other people showed it too. And the thing is, I don't like it when people blare music in general, but sometimes if they just have whatever radio station on, it's like, it's annoying, it's unnecessary, but fine, whatever. But this particular booth, it was a thing, they were selling art or comics or something that, you know, made sense. But then they had like, I forget what they called it, but it was like nerd karaoke. They didn't use those words, but that's what it was. And so they were like, oh, if you buy something, come and sing, you know, the Sailor Moon theme song or whatever. Which, I mean, I guess it's like a good sales pitch, but it had nothing to do with what they were selling. It was just an excuse to get people at their booth. Okay, but it was loud where you would hear it booths away. Now that kind of bugged me, but it was like, well, I guess people are having fun, and, you know, as long as the attendees are having fun. But what made me get really pissed is after a while it got slow. And then the 2 guys that ran the booth just started singing. Just like, you know, not customers, not guests. Just, hey, we're going to sing another one. Song after song of just these 2 idiots singing terrible karaoke at the whole place. And I wanted to kill them. But, like, what are you going to say? Like, well, I'm going to run 5 booths down and be like, hey, quit it. You know, like.
Right.
And I had it at one convention, and then I did another one a few months later, and the same guys. Luckily, they were further away, so it didn't bother me as much. But I was like, how do they. What is their thought behind that's a good idea, and why do the promoters keep letting them do it? Because everybody else that isn't them hates it.
Yeah, I think the only context where you should be blaring karaoke is at a karaoke bar. There should be nobody sober. Like that's the key. So if you manage to, like, if you're gonna do that at a convention, you need to get everyone at the convention drinking for free.
To give you an idea how bad it is, though, I do karaoke sober. So I don't have a problem with karaoke in and of itself. That's how bad this was.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but I don't know. I'm just kind of, I'm a little concerned that Pheonix Comic-Con may just be, you know, just going to become like another,
Wizard World or something.
Yeah, something like that, or Kamikaze or something like that. So, yeah, I don't know, but we'll see. I mean, it could be because they didn't have enough people, you know, that they didn't do anything about that, because it would be really easy for somebody to say, I sell my own original art, and then go there and sell cheap Chinese.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, is that all they had?
That's all they had.
Because I've had friends that like had a book and had art, but then would sell water as well, or, you know, Pop-Tarts.
No, I don't have a problem with that, as long as it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to get into this too much, but like if you're selling fan art, it would be nice at least if you had something original as well. Like, I know, like what you do, Gaz, you have your original stuff. I mean, I'm a big on at least the 20% maybe could be original stuff. I think that, but you know, and that's just me. I know a lot of people would disagree with me, but I don't know. I just want to see more original stuff.
I agree that sounds good, but I also know, from personal experience and from talking to other people that some people just can't make money on table that way.
Yeah. So,
but I want to pivot for a second, still on conventions, but I've been wanting to change my setup for a while, and I want to change to something, more like the tripods with just a couple prints hanging, because I build them out of these steel cages now, which works, but it's heavy and it's cumbersome, and the setup and takedown is very long. But I realized the thing that's been holding me up more than, the getting the things and figuring out, because I kind of sort of know how to do it, and I just got to spend the money to do it. But storage of print inventory at a show. Right now, the way I do my prints, first of all, I have too many prints, but that's just, once I sell through my old inventory, I'll be done with them. But I've probably got like 50 designs, but really I've got like 10, you know what I mean? So I've got like 2 or 3 kicking around, and then I have these other ones that I've got between 10 and 50 of, depending on how well I think they sell. And I have them in various Tupperware containers in the house, and then I put them in the car and I bring them to the show, and I unload them and put them in the racks that I build, or I leave some of the bigger ones in a Tupperware. And then when it's time to get a print, I go and dig through the appropriate pile, and I have a vague idea where everything is. If somebody else is watching my booth, it's a lot harder because they might not know exactly where everything is. Sometimes I'll get a text, "Hey, quick, come back. I don't know where this print is." So and once I switch to this other setup with the tripods, I won't have those built-in shelves anymore either. So I'll have even less sections, because right now I have like 5 sections of prints at least. So what I've been wanting to do is get a Tupperware where I could hang them in file folders and have it alphabetical and literally have them labeled. So like, oh, Godzilla versus Ultraman, boop, here you go. But I have 11 by 17 prints, and I've been to Walmart, Target, Office Max, Staples, what was the art? I was at Michael's. I was at the Container Store. None of them have anything that will allow me to hold 11 by 17 prints in a filing sort of folder that'd be easily accessible. The closest I came was the Container Store had like this way I could build this shower caddy thing, and then I'd still have to find files somewhere else, and it was like big and heavy and expensive. And so I'm wondering, and this might be more for Scott, but Josh, if you have an idea, obviously jump in. How do you store and organize your prints? And or do you have a suggestion for how I could maybe do it better than what I have now?
I can tell you how I do mine, but I don't know that it's going to help you out. So, I built like a replica of the plutonium case from Back to the Future.
Okay.
Only it's got my branding and everything on it. So it's like it's basically an anvil case, like for a snare drum, and it's just the perfect size for 11 by. Well, no, I sell 12 by 18, so just the perfect size by 12 by 18.
Right.
And I can put tons of stuff in there, so that's kind of what I carry it around with. But the way my table is, because I designed like a tabletop that just fits on top of the regular tables,
right,
and it's kind of raised, so I just slide all my prints under that table, so they're right there in front of me, and I kind of put them adjacent to where they are in back of me, so I can just look up back in back of me and then go kind of in front and figure out where they are and pull those out.
Well, how many, when you're set up at the booth,
mm-hmm.
do you have piles that have more than one type of print in them, or is you have it?
Well, now that I've got a lot more prints, yeah, some of them do, but they might have like 2 or 3 on top of each other of different prints, but I kind of know where they are, and it's kind of spread out. And again, I've got at least this time around I had 2 tables, so I've got some width there to play with, and they're just kind of sitting on top of the tables, but under my like kind of faux tabletop.
Right.
But I'm trying to think. I'm wondering if you might have to make something custom. But I was checking out Steam Crow's booth, and I mean they've got a massive booth. I think they've got there's just like 4 booths put together. Booths, not tables.
Right.
And,
wow, that is a lot.
Yeah, but they've got everything. Well, most everything. It depends, because they've got a lot of different products, and the prints probably won't fit in these. But they've got like the milk crates, and they're all like, they all look the same. It's like they're all like totally black milk crates. They're not like it doesn't say Shamrock Farms or whatever or anything like that on it. But they basically use that for storing, and then what they also do is they basically build their booth out of it. They turn them and stack them, so they make tabletops out of this, and it's kind of ingenious the way they do that. But
I mean, that is a good idea, but I feel like I'm trying to move away from building a huge thing, and that seems like going in the wrong direction.
So you're using Tupperware now, right?
I use Tupperware. When I move in, I have 2 or 3 big Rubbermaid Tupperware type things.
Because that's where I store my prints at home. Is in
me too. And then I just bring those to the show. And then some of the big ones I leave in a Tupperware, and I leave my same thing with my bags. I have a Tupperware full of bags. And then because I build basically shelves out of the cubes, I will take prints and lay them into the shelves. I see Holly actually has given some suggestions in the chat.
Yeah.
11 by 17 boxes are cool. They have them on Amazon under ledger boxes. You can get some file folders. Unrelated, IKEA has these shoe storage boxes that hang on the wall that are perfect for prints. So look up in vertical storage. Okay, well, so there might be a solution on Amazon for 11 by 17 vertical storage box.
Another idea.
HC Brown.
Yeah, another idea.
Yes.
Have you seen those?
Thank you for that suggestion.
They kind of fold out like an X, and then it's got like maybe a little black canvas thing that you can stick like art prints in for people to go through. Have you seen those? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
So it's basically, imagine like a folding thing. Like, when you go to a hotel,
accordion?
Well, kind of. When you go to a hotel and they have that thing where you put your luggage on that folds up?
Yes.
It's kind of like that, but it dips into like a V so you can put things in it, and it's smaller.
Okay.
It would fit on your table. But I've seen people have those on their table where people can flip through it.
Oh, and you'd actually have, and they would just take the print they want.
Yeah, so I would imagine you can get something like that and just put dividers, make your own dividers in between so you can flip through them yourself, maybe. But I would check out what Holly's talking about, because there's got to be something out there that size that,
Yeah, because if I could have, I'll look when we're off the air. I don't want to be searching Amazon right now, but if what she's describing, how I'm picturing it, sounds pretty close to what I want. The only downside is that it's a box instead of something more sturdy like Rubbermaid or Tupperware. But if I could have like 2 or 3 11 by 17 boxes that are just filled with all the prints in some sort of order, probably alphabetical, that would be amazing. And I could just put them under the table. I don't have to worry about any extra storage. And then if somebody has to watch my table for a minute, they could find prints really easily. And that would be amazing. And I'm definitely going to look into that after we get off. If not, I could take a look at your accordion idea. But both of those ideas are better than anything I've found so far. So
my biggest issue is the big prints, the 20 by 30 prints. Because right now they're just rolled up. And I guess that's the best way to do it, because if you give it to somebody, that's probably how they're going to want it, is rolled up.
Right.
And if I ship it, that's going to be the way I ship it too. But it's kind of hard when they're in a roll. You got to pull everything out of the tube, find the right print you want. Now that didn't matter this year because I didn't sell anything. But that goes back to what I was saying before. I mean, last year I sold tons of those, not tons, but I sold enough of those big prints that I had to go and reorder.
Right.
So yeah, who knows?
So I wonder, what do you guys recommend for like inventory? Like, do you keep track of like your sales, like as you're doing?
Yeah. I've got a list of every single product, and it's just divided by day, and I just put hash marks when I sell something.
That's much smarter than what I do. I literally have a note. Well, I used to do it with a piece of paper. Now I do it with my phone. And every time I sell something, I just note what I sold. And then at the end of the whole thing, I add it all up and figure out, A, how much I made, and B, what my best sellers were. Yeah.
The only thing I don't like about my system is, and if I would have had time, I would have tried to do more of that, but
your system's better. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, no. Your system's definitely better.
but it doesn't take into account, and most of the stuff I have plenty of. So it's not like I'm going to run out, but I have no way of knowing how many if I'm almost sold out, or how I need to come up with something to let me know when I need to reorder. Because right now, so I was even going to put like little dots and fill those of how many of each thing I have, and then fill those dots in as I sell them. So anything empty, I'll know that I have that many left. But then each time you order more, you've got to add more dots to your little sheet. But if I had the time, I could do that, because it's just a matter of going into whatever Illustrator and cutting and pasting more dots or something like that. I
think when it comes to that sort of organizational inventory stuff, when you're at the level, I'll put us at the same level, although we may not be, but we're certainly in the same bracket, at least, of sales. It's a balancing act between doing a good job of inventory and tracking versus how much time is worth spending on that.
Yeah.
And I feel like the way I do it, I have a vague idea of what are my best sellers and roughly when I need to reorder something. It should be better. Scott's is better. I think Scott, like he said, he could even do better. But the time you have to invest to do that, is it worth it for how often you're selling out and how much money you're making? And the way I usually do it is, at a show, if I notice I sell out of one of my best sellers, if it's not a bestseller, I don't care. If it's one of my best sellers, I go, wow, I sold out. I absolutely have to order more of those before my next show. And at that point, I'll do a quick inventory of everything else and say, is there anything else I need while I'm at it? So I only make new print runs like, I don't know, twice a year maybe. And it's like, I try to wait until I have a new print done, or if I run out of something, you know, that is a bestseller. But it's not like I'm selling out every other show, you know, because I'll, like I talk, like my Ultraman versus Godzilla print I talk about a lot. That's probably my all-time bestseller. And, you know, maybe I'll sell 40 in a year. And that's my all-time bestseller. You know what I mean? So it's not like I'm worried about running out every show.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just curious because, like, my inventory has always just been, like, having, like, I haven't done proper inventory in the past. I've just had, like, the names of every item, and then I put, like, a little line next to it.
Sure.
And, you know, count by fives. So I know how much I sold, but I wouldn't know how much I was reducing. And, like, that to me, like, if when I approach it again, I want to approach it from that standpoint. Because, like, I'm not expecting to make mass sales, but I still would want to know, like, especially with books, it's like I want to know, like, do I need to do another run? I doubt I'll get through one run, but you never know.
I find books easier than prints to keep track of, because I sell less, and you know, I've only got one real book out right now, whereas I have, like I said, like 50 prints and all the pins and everything else.
Yeah.
So if I mark down that I sold 4 books at a show, I know what book it is, and I know that, you know, the last time I printed 100 copies, let's say. So if I run out, well, I sold 100 copies, you know, so that I don't even have to really think about inventory for books as much as I do for prints.
Yeah. That's not a bad call. All right. Well, do you guys feel like we've kind of hit everything?
Yeah. You want to? Anybody in the chat have a question that they?
There's a lot of stuff in the chat. I'm gonna try to copy all this stuff and paste it into the comment section. But this is a really good chat. There's a lot of stuff, so I'm sure we missed tons of stuff, but. Yeah,
Jen M says regarding print storage, since I have helpers, I have small images of everything so they can easily see the item since they may not know by name, which is a good idea. Anybody that would watch my table would be able to know the name of it, but you still must have some sort on my con inventory sheet. Oh, that's just for marking it down. Okay. But still, that, you know, small images, I guess if you have people that don't know the material, it's a good idea. If somebody didn't know who Godzilla was, I wouldn't trust them to watch my booth, so that's not a problem for me. I'd have a receipt tablet, blah, 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 right? iPad, spreadsheets, just count what I sold at the end of the day. They're all commenting on inventory. If anybody had a question, ask it now or forever hold your peace in the chat there. And we'll silently wait.
It's just going to be a dead show at this point.
There's too many one-offs and sketches to make it.
By the way, Gaz, that page is looking awesome, man.
Oh, thanks. I've been working on it for a month, so I hope so. Thank you, though. That's nice of you to say.
Those look good. All right. Well, so pretty much, I'm Joshua Kemble. You can find me at this channel, and you already should know where that is. Gaz, where can we find you?
You can find me everywhere good art and robots can be found. Yes, I'm Gazbot. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. I'm on the Facebook. I'm on everywhere. Look up Gazbot, and if you don't find me with 1 T, try it with 2.
Nice. And Scott?
Okay, yeah, you can find me at Circworks pretty much everywhere online. If I'm there, I'll be at Circworks. That goes for YouTube, and tomorrow I'll have more talk about Pheonix Comic-con, and then I'll have another video. So tomorrow, I think I'll have a video where it's just me drawing a robot and talking about it. But the one after that, I've got some cool interviews with some people doing some cool independent comics and stuff. That might not be till next week, but I've got some cool stuff coming out on my YouTube channel. Are you going to say something? Yes?
I was going to say, if anybody hasn't seen Scott's setup, it's worth checking out some of his videos just to see his setup, because it's pretty deluxe and it's worth looking at.
Yeah, I'm gonna. we go longer, I'll have to talk about some changes I'm going to make to that setup. So I probably should have talked about that when you were talking about yours, but anyway, that's more content for later, because I think we are gonna be talking more about cons still, and it seems like a popular topic. So if you guys, and then I'll just segue this into the newsletter. So if you don't know how this works, these videos rotate from Josh's channel to my channel and then back to Josh. And okay, Gaz has some kind of sword.
Oh, I'm just playing in the background.
It looks like one of those things that you direct airplane traffic with.
It's actually a railway director, but it's from a Sentai series. I'm sorry. I thought I could play around in the bottom third and not distract you. I guess I was wrong.
So no, that's right.
You were saying about a newsletter.
Yeah, so we got a newsletter. So if there should be a link in the description on this video. If you click on that, if you're not already subscribed to the newsletter, that'll let you know when we're going to air, because usually it's Wednesday night, sometimes it's Thursday. Now next week, I've got something going on, a convention for work from Wednesday through the weekend. So we can't do it our normal time. Josh does his Rock and Roll Tuesday, so it may be if we do it, it's probably gonna have to be Monday. So if you guys want to know if we're gonna do it or not, then subscribe to that newsletter and we'll let you know. But we're gonna try to get my friend Jeremy on and talk about some of the sales stuff that he does at cons. But I gotta see if he's available and everything. So just to let you guys know, jeez, guys. All right.
Sorry.
I like puppet shows as much as the next guy. All right. So, but anyway, so just so you guys know, next week it should, if we do Artcasters, it will be a little different schedule. So stay tuned and sign up for that newsletter if you're not already signed up, or just follow us on social media and all that. And it is a trap.
Yeah, I think that'll be it. We'll see you guys.
Yes. Yes.